CreepyCorner stories.
Hey everyone, welcome back to CreepyCorner stories. You know, diving into the dark web is always risky, but sharing these stories with you makes it worth it. I'm curious, where are you watching this from right now? Let me know in the comments below. I noticed that these kind of stories hit differently depending on where you are. It might make the experience a little creepier. So tell me, are you watching from the safety of your home or somewhere less secure? I stumbled into a dark web forum about 9/11. One of the documents had my uncle's name signed at the bottom. What's up? So I'm not really the type to post on Reddit. Like, I scroll here and there, get stuck in r/ask Reddit loops at 2 a.m. Maybe read a few creepy stories before bed, but I've never actually posted anything. That changed a week ago, because what happened to me felt too real to keep to myself. Like, if I don't put this somewhere, I might lose my mind. This isn't one of those "my uncle works for the government" type of stories either. I swear on everything, this started with something stupid. Just me being bored. One of those nights where you're 3 Red Bulls deep, watching analog horror on YouTube at 3 a.m. and suddenly, you click on the wrong thing. Or maybe the right thing. I honestly don't know anymore. So let me start from the top. September 12th, 1:47 a.m. It was late. I was home alone. My roommates were out partying at some dumb hookah lounge, but I wasn't feeling it. I was in my room, chilling with my LED lights on purple. You know the vibe. Just watching a bunch of those true deep web horror stories, compilations on YouTube. I'd just finished binge watching like 3 episodes of that channel, Here's My Story, the animated horror ones, and I was already in that paranoid but curious state of mind. Then I saw this random comment under a video titled "Dark Websites That Still Exist in 2025. The comment had mad likes, and it said, "If you want to see something that'll ruin your entire childhood, go to xg7wq.dusknet.onion/oldops. Just don't click the 4th folder." I was like, okay, this is either a meme, a scam, or some kind of elaborate ARG. And yeah, I knew better than to go on the dark web. I mean, come on. I'm not trying to get arrested or have the NSA break down my door, but I'd used Tails before. Years ago, for school, we had a cybersecurity elective, no joke. So I was like, screw it. I re-downloaded Tor, just for fun. I typed in the URL xg7wq.dusknet.onion/oldops, and honestly, I was expecting some sketchy dead link or a rickroll, but no, the page actually loaded. Slowly, but it loaded. It was super bare, no graphics. Just a black background, white courier font. At the top, it said, "Archived U.S. Military Ops, Internal Access, Only. Last updated, September 11th, 2025. There were 6 folders listed. 1. Operation Glasstide. 2. Operation Violet Garden. 3. NYCA of Flight 11 debrief. 4. Recovered items, WTC South Tower. 5. Footage. 6. They watched. And yeah, I clicked the 4th one. Of course I did. You would have too. It was a list of scanned documents. Dozens of them. Like somebody took photos of classified military files and uploaded them here. Some were faded, some had burn marks on the corners, some were straight up handwritten on yellow legal paper. I clicked on one that was titled September 15th, 2001, Chain of Custody Report, South Tower, Level 89, Item Number 1439. The document loaded, and at first, It just looked like a log. Who found the item, time of discovery, etc. But my stomach dropped when I got to the bottom of the report. It had a name I recognized immediately, in red pen. Signed, Lieutenant Daniel R.K., U.S. Air Force, retired. That's my uncle. No exaggeration, no joke. My mom's older brother. And the thing is, he never talks about what he did in the military. All I ever knew growing up was that he worked in Intel, served from 92 to 2004, and then just disappeared into retirement. He lives in Vermont now, in a cabin with no Wi-Fi. Says he likes to be off-grid. I immediately screenshotted the document. I know, dumb, but I panicked. I scrolled back up and noticed something I missed the first time. Item number 1439. Contents. Undisclosed item recovered from South Tower, elevator shaft, lodged between steel beams, assumed non-civilian origin, not present on any original construction diagrams, emits faint electromagnetic pulse. What does that even mean? As soon as I closed the dock, I noticed something. The tab name in Tor had changed. It no longer said Archived Military Ops. It said, Do not look. I refreshed the page. Nothing happened. Then my speakers made this weird click noise, like the kind when your phone gets too close to a speaker and it buzzes. Except nothing was playing. Just total silence. My Spotify was off. I even checked for pop-ups. Then my webcam light blinked. Once. Then went off. I legit threw a towel over it. Like, bro, I don't care if it's a CIA ghost. I ain't trying to get Blair Witched through my Logitech C920. I called my uncle. I sat there staring at the screen for a full 20 minutes before I did anything. Then I grabbed my phone and texted my uncle. Hey, Uncle Dan. Weird question. Did you ever work during September 11th? He didn't respond. I waited another hour. Nothing. So I called him. Straight to voicemail. Now that's not too weird. He's old. He doesn't keep his phone on him all the time. But still. The timing? Right after I saw his name on that site, I left him a voicemail. I didn't mention the site. Just said, Hey, just thinking about you. Can you call me back? He never did. But the next morning, I woke up to a notification on my phone. Not from my uncle. From Instagram. You were mentioned in a story. It was a random account. No profile pic, no followers. Just the username. At object_1439. The story was just a black screen, but it had text on it. Just one line. We saw what you saw. Tell no one. That's when I shut everything down. I deleted Tor, wiped my browser, even Factory reset my phone. I wanted to pretend it didn't happen, but of course, it wasn't over. The next day, something showed up at my apartment. A cardboard box, no return address, taped shut, and inside was a VHS tape, written on the label in Sharpie. Footage, WTC elevator shaft, item 1439. I didn't open the box right away. It sat on my desk for nearly 3 hours, completely still, but somehow more threatening than anything I'd ever held in my hands. The cardboard was wet in the corners, like it had been dragged through mud. The tape sealing it was uneven, like it had been closed in a panic. No return address, no sender, nothing, except for that one word written across the VHS tape inside. Footage, WTC elevator shaft, item 1439. I don't own a VHS player. Who does in 2025, right? But my roommate had this old combo TV/VHS player he got from a flea market last year because he said it looked retro. I grabbed it out of his room and dragged it into mine. It smelled like melted plastic. the kind of stale synthetic smell that makes your skin itch. I plugged it in, popped in the tape, and closed the lid. And I swear to God, the second I pressed play, the lights in my room flickered. No thunder, no wind, no outage in the area, just a short, unnatural flicker, like my room blinked. Once. Then the footage started. The tape. No music, no intro, no time code, just grainy, handheld footage, probably recorded on one of those old Panasonic cameras, the kind with the handle on top. It showed a man, maybe mid-30s, tan skin, shaved head, in a dusty gray uniform, crawling down an elevator shaft. His vest said AFSEC, Air Force Safety Center. He had a camera clipped to his chest, and it was angled downward into pure blackness below. You could hear breathing, heavy, nervous. Then a voice came through his radio, static-filled and distant, confirming, "You've reached level 88. Proceed to last known point of contact." Over. The man didn't respond right away. He just kept descending. And then, at exactly 0 hours, 2 minutes, and 49 seconds, the feed glitched. Like heavy distortion, frames skipping, this harsh screeching noise behind the audio that sounded like a child screaming through a broken walkie-talkie. The man paused, looked up into the darkness. The radio clicked again, but this time, it wasn't the same voice. It was higher, not distorted, just wrong, like something trying to sound human. "Do not descend further. They're not in their bodies anymore." Then silence. The guy whispered, "What the hell?" He looked at the camera. For a second, I swear to God, I swear, it was like he was looking directly at me, not just into the lens, through it, like he knew I was watching. Right now. He kept going down, step by step, breathing louder now. Then, at 00613, his flashlight hit something. A metal object jammed between two steel beams. It looked like a sealed steel cube, about the size of a lunchbox, with these etched symbols on each side. Almost like Mayan or Sumerian script, but way too clean. Like it was made recently, not ancient, not damaged in the collapse. The moment the light hit it, the screen warped again, and something moved, just outside the flashlight beam. Too fast to see clearly, but you could hear it, like skin sliding against metal. Wet, twitchy sounds. The man turned the camera toward the noise, and right there, clear as day, was a face looking up from the bottom of the shaft. Not human. It was shaped like a person's head, sure, but it had no eyes, just hollow sockets, and this stretched black slit for a mouth that, almost like a cartoon smile, except it didn't move naturally. It pulsed like a muscle spasm. The jaw clicked open and shut, over and over again. Tap, tap, tap. The sound of something tapping on the steel beams, not from the tape, from inside my fucking wall. Something was inside my room. I paused the tape. Everything went dead silent. Then again, tap, tap, tap. This time louder, coming from the left side of my wall, right where my closet is. I thought I was losing my mind. I ran over and opened the closet. Nothing. I banged on the wall. No echo. Nothing behind it. Just drywall. Then the tape unpaused by itself, like the button pressed down without me touching it. The footage turns back on screen. The man was now face to face with the thing. His breathing was violent, shaky. You could hear him trying not to scream. The creature tilted its head, like it was studying him. And then, from the camera's mic, you could hear this low, warbly whisper, like a looped voice, one of those reversed, demonic-sounding phrases you'd hear in analog horror clips online. but it wasn't in another language. It was in English. The buildings were never empty. They were built to house them. The impact only opened the doors. Then the camera went black. No scream, no cut, just blackness. And in the center of the screen, new text faded in. Item number 1439. Containment breach. Logged September 11th, 2001. Subject relocated via shaft. Biological interference confirmed. Memory wipe failed. Witnesses 3. And under that, one final phrase. Witness number 3. Daniel R.K. Status retired / unresponsive / monitored ***. My uncle. He was one of them. I turned the VHS player off. Yanked the plug out of the wall. Full panic mode now. I didn't sleep that night. Next morning, I woke up to a voicemail from a blocked number. The message was just 5 seconds long. They don't die in the collapse. They move through it. That's it. No voice. Just that one sentence. And in the background, if you listen close, you can hear something tapping again. Tap, tap, tap. The final straw. I went to check my phone gallery. Wanted to delete the screenshot I took of that document from the dark web, just in case. But it was gone. Not deleted, just replaced with a new image. A still frame from the VHS tape. Except it wasn't the footage I saw. It was a photo of me, sitting at my desk, from behind me. Timestamp, 2:49 a.m., September 12th, 2025. The same minute I watched that man descend to level 88. I never took that picture, and I live alone. That's when I realized it's not about the tape. It's not about the website. It's about what was recovered in that shaft. Item 1439. And the people who knew about it. And the people who looked too closely. One more thing. I tried to reach my uncle again. I went full detective mode. Googled his last known address. Pulled up white pages. Even DM'd a few people from a church group he used to go to in Vermont. 3 days later, someone emailed me back from a burner Gmail. Subject line, "Don't come looking. He's not him anymore." Attached was one file. A blurry photo of a burned out cabin in the Vermont woods. No roof. Ashes everywhere. And nailed to the door frame, barely visible in the ash. A piece of wood, painted in red letters. They're still in the walls. I didn't sleep for 3 days after the email about the burned cabin. My apartment stopped feeling like an apartment. It started feeling like a container. The walls felt heavier, like they weren't made of drywall anymore, but something alive pressing in on me. The box with the VHS tape sat on my desk and began to smell faintly like rust and wet pennies. Every time I walked past it, I could feel a faint vibration through the floorboards, like there was a hidden generator humming somewhere beneath the building. I unplugged everything in my room, but the hum didn't stop. At night, the tapping escalated, not just from the wall now, but from the ceiling, the vents, the mattress springs. Slow, deliberate. It was communicating. I recorded the taps on my phone and tried to run them through a Morse code translator. The output made no sense except for one word that repeated every time. 89. I thought I was losing it, until I realized the marks on my walls weren't dirt. They were fingerprints, oily, dark smears shaped like human hands. I cleaned them. They came back by morning. The dream. I started dreaming about level 89. These weren't normal dreams. They were sensory, sterile. I could smell damp iron, hear a low hum behind the walls. I was walking down an elevator shaft, lined with rows of faces, stretched thin like paper, their mouths sewn shut with wire. The skin was gray, like wax left too close to a flame. They weren't dead, but they weren't breathing either. Their eyes didn't blink, but they followed me. And below, deeper down, something was pulling me. Not gravity. This was a pressure behind my ribs, dragging me lower. A voice rose from the dark. Not my uncle's, not mine. Something dry, rasping like air moving through a dead throat. Level 89 isn't a floor. It's a chamber. I woke up gasping. My phone was already in my hand. The screen opened to my voicemail app. No missed calls, just a blank page. At the bottom was a new tab. Play memory. The memory file. I tapped it. My phone screen glitched for a second, went black, then opened a video. It was a recording of me, sitting at my desk, watching the VHS tape. But the date stamp wasn't from last week. It was from 2001. My hair was shorter. My face looked younger. The wallpaper behind me wasn't my current apartment. It was the basement of my old childhood home in New Jersey. I was 8 years old then. I never owned a VHS player in that house. The video zoomed in on my face. In the background, behind Child May, a man walked by holding a sealed steel cube, the same one from the elevator shaft. His face was blurred, but his arm had a tattoo of an Air Force insignia. The package. At 3:11 a.m., a knock rattled my door. Not a normal knock, hard even, like a cop's knock. 3 times. I didn't answer. After a minute, I heard the door open anyway. No footsteps, just a long, dragging sound, like cloth on tile. Then silence. When I finally worked up the courage to look, the door was still locked, but a new package sat inside the apartment on the floor, directly against my bed. No return address. Black wrapping this time. Inside was a key card, stamped on it, L89, and under that, a date. September 11th, 2025, 3:30 a.m. It was 3:24 a.m. The descent. My building has no basement, no lower level, but when I went into the stairwell, a new door was there at the bottom of the steps. A steel door with a slot for a key card. I don't know what possessed me, but I swiped it. The door unlocked with a sound like a lung deflating. Beyond it, a narrow concrete stairwell spiraled down, dimly lit by flickering yellow bulbs. It smelled like waterlogged carpet and antiseptic. I took my phone with me and recorded everything. The walls were sweating, condensation dripping down like veins. At the bottom was an elevator. No buttons, just a slot for the keycard again. I swiped it. The doors opened. Inside the elevator were no numbers, only a single button, 89. When I pressed it, the elevator dropped so fast, my stomach hit my throat, and then it stopped. The doors opened. Level 89. It wasn't a floor. It was a chamber, huge, black, damp. The ceiling arched into darkness. The walls weren't metal. They were alive. Thick cords of what looked like tendons stretched across steel beams. In the center was the cube, item 1439, mounted on a steel pedestal. Around it were figures, human-shaped, standing perfectly still. Their faces were blank, smooth skin, where eyes and mouths should be. Their hands were fused together in front of their chests, like praying mantises, and behind them, built into the walls, I could see other bodies, hundreds, maybe thousands. They weren't sculptures. They twitched. Their mouths moved like fish trying to breathe. My phone started ringing, loud, a private number. I answered without thinking. It was my uncle's voice. If you see me there, it isn't me anymore. Do not let them touch you. The call cut off. One of the blank-faced figures turned its head toward me. its neck cracked like dry wood, its skin split where a mouth should have been, opening in a jagged smile. It whispered my name. Then everything went dark. Now I woke up on my apartment floor at 5:06 a.m. The box with the VHS was gone. The walls were clean again. No oily prints, no tapping. But on my arm, just below the elbow, someone had stamped something in black ink. L89, witness 4. I don't remember how I got back. I don't know how much of that was real. But last night, I dreamed of the shaft again. And this time, I wasn't walking down it. I was inside the wall. I haven't been the same since level 89. It's like my body came back, but my head stayed down there. My sense of time is shredded. My reflection lags in mirrors, like it takes half a second longer to catch up. Food tastes like ash. My phone won't hold a charge for more than 5 minutes, but it turns on by itself at night and records audio I never made. 2 nights after I woke up, something new began. The whispering. Not out loud, inside my skull. Not a voice I can describe either. It isn't masculine or feminine. It's like a memory of a voice someone forced into me. It hums under my thoughts like a dial tone. When I'm awake, it mutters. When I'm asleep, it shows me things. The first vision wasn't a dream. I was sitting at my desk in daylight, staring at the wall, when my vision flickered, and for 2 seconds, I was back in the chamber. Not standing, suspended, embedded into the wall up to my ribs, my arms pinned behind my back like the others, a smell of rot and ozone burning in my nose, a rhythm of wet breathing all around me, out of sync with my own. I blinked, and I was back in my apartment. On my arm, the black stamp that read, Witness 4, had begun to blister. It wasn't ink. It was like the mark had burned itself into my skin. The second package. At 2 a.m., a knock rattled the door again, this time softer, slow. The kind of knock someone makes with their fingernails instead of their knuckles. I didn't open. I sat on the floor and waited. After a while, a plain white envelope slid under the door. Inside was a single Polaroid photograph. It showed my apartment from above, like from a security camera in the ceiling. I was in the photo, sitting on the floor. Standing behind me in the picture was a man in an Air Force uniform, with his head turned completely backward, smiling at the camera. I flipped the photo over. In red marker was a date. Level 89. Open shaft. September 20, 2025. That's 3 days from now. And under that, witness 4 must return. The feed. I stayed awake the entire night, watching every shadow, every vent, waiting for another knock. Around 4:17 a.m., my laptop, which was shut and unplugged, turned itself on. No fan noise, no boot screen, just straight to a black screen with text in white courier font. Feed active, level 89. Then the image flickered into a live feed. Not security footage, headcam footage, someone moving through a hallway, rust-streaked walls, dim flickering lights. At the end of the hall, a steel door stood open, leading into that same black chamber with the cube. The cam wearer walked inside. In the corner of the frame, a small green icon read, Witness 4. It was my perspective. I wasn't at my desk anymore. I was looking through someone else's eyes, but I could still feel my hands clutching the armrests of my chair. As the cam wearer approached the cube, the audio came online. The whispering I'd been hearing in my skull for days now was clearer, a chorus of layered voices whispering the same line over and over. Not gone, not dead, not gone, not dead, The camera reached out and touched the cube. The footage cut to black. On my laptop screen, new text appeared. Relocation in progress. My phone vibrated on the desk. A text from an unknown number. Check your closet. The closet. I turned slowly. The closet door was open. I never leave it open. Inside was darkness. Not regular darkness. A vertical darkness, like looking down an endless well. I shined my phone flashlight inside and saw concrete steps spiraling downward. My closet was now a stairwell. The air that came out of it smelled like wet concrete and blood. I backed away, closed the door. The whispering in my head screamed. For the first time, it was loud enough to make me cover my ears. Return. The file desperate, I opened my uncle's old laptop. I'd taken it from my mom's attic last month, out of curiosity. The hard drive had one file labeled 1439 with a date of 2001. It was a video file. I clicked. The screen showed a sterile room. My uncle, younger, sitting at a metal table with two men in black suits. On the table was the cube from level 89. My uncle was crying. One of the men slid a document across the table toward him. The document had my childhood name typed on it. My uncle signed it. One of the suited men said, "Witness, 4 secured." The video ended. The corridor. At exactly 3:33 a.m., the closet door opened by itself. The stairwell yawned in silence. My phone, my laptop, even the lights shut off. In total darkness, the whispering became a single voice, not a chorus, one clear voice. We built the towers around them. You survived the collapse once. Come back. The floor under me vibrated like a heartbeat. And then I heard my uncle's voice, his real voice this time, somewhere deep down the stairwell. "They're making me hold the door open. Don't let them make you come down here." But the voice cracked and shifted halfway through, becoming something else, something thin and high and wet. "Come down here." Now it's 5:46 a.m. I'm writing this from the hallway. The stairwell in my closet hasn't disappeared. The whispering has stopped for now, but the mark on my arm is spreading like ink under my skin, up toward my shoulder. I know that if I go down those stairs, I won't come back. I also know if I don't go, they'll come up. The Polaroid is still on the floor. The date, September 20th, 2025, is tomorrow night. The text just came again from the unknown number. Only 2 words this time. Door open. The mark on my arm just reached my throat. If this is my last post, and if anyone ever finds this, remember this. The towers weren't built just for offices. They weren't built just for people. They were built to hold something inside. And it's not gone. It's waiting for the rest of us to come back. I haven't slept. The mark on my arm is no longer a mark. It's a seam. The skin there isn't mine anymore. It's soft, damp, and faintly pulsating, like something breathing under it. It's climbed to my collarbone. When I press it, I feel a second heartbeat that isn't mine. It's the night of September 20th now. The Polaroid on the floor has changed. Same photo of my apartment, but this time I'm not in it. Instead, the photo shows the empty room with the closet door wide open and the stairwell visible. And behind the stairwell, in the shadows, a figure stands bent backward, its face blurred like a bad JPEG. Every device I own has been wiped. My phone boots up to a black screen that just says, "Witness 4." My laptop won't open any files. The ceiling light flickers in patterns, long, short, Morse code. When I wrote it down, the letters spelled, "We are upstairs." The last descent, at exactly 3:33 a.m. My closet door opened by itself again. No sound of hinges, just darkness yawning wider than before. The stairwell wasn't spiraling anymore. It stretched down in a perfectly straight corridor lined with metal ribs, like the inside of a giant animal. I stepped forward. I don't even know why. My body moved without me. My hand grabbed the phone, though the screen was dead. The smell of iron and water was stronger now, mixed with something like rotting hair. The corridor walls had handprints pressed into them. Thousands, all pointed downward, some small, some huge. The air vibrated with a low sound, not a hum anymore, but a breath. I walked for what felt like an hour. The steps behind me didn't echo. They thudded like I was walking on flesh. The light from my phone dimmed with each step until there was nothing but the faintest gray glow ahead. The chamber. I reached it. Not level 89. Something deeper. A cavern, larger than any room I've ever seen. The walls weren't walls anymore. They were lattices of bone and rebar, fused together. Faces pushed out of the bone, eyes open, mouths moving, but no sound coming out. In the center sat the cube, item 1439, but it was different now. It was open, unfolded like a steel flower, its panels covered in moving symbols. Inside it, something glowed. A liquid? A mass? It shifted when I looked at it, like it was aware of me. Around it were the figures, not blank-faced anymore. They had faces now. My face, my uncle's face. Rows of us, mouths stretched wide, whispering in perfect unison. Witness 4. The whispering rose into a chant. The air vibrated so hard my teeth hurt. I felt hands on my shoulders, but when I turned, no one was there. The seam on my arm tore open on its own. Dark fluid slid down my wrist. My breath came out in a mist that tasted like metal. My Uncle He stepped out from the crowd, or what was left of him did. His eyes were gone. His uniform hung loose on his body like wet cloth. His jaw unhinged too far and swung as he spoke. I held the door for you. You have to take it. Now. He raised his hand. In it was a keycard burned black. He pressed it into my palm. It fused into my skin. The towers weren't built to stop them. They were built to feed them. His head tilted back until his neck snapped. Then he stepped backward into the wall and disappeared. The realization. The cube wasn't an object. It was a mouth. The panels weren't panels. They were teeth. And it was hungry. Every witness wasn't a survivor. We were the next course. The chamber began to close around me. The faces in the walls opened their mouths in silent screams. The glow from the cube intensified until it was all I could see. The chant became a single word, over and over. Return, return, return. I felt my body being lifted off the ground, pulled towards the cube. My skin stretched as if invisible hands were peeling it from me. For a moment, I saw beyond the chamber, saw the elevator shafts, the beams, the ruins under New York. They weren't ruins. They were tunnels. Tunnels built around these things, like a nervous system built into the city. I saw my 8-year-old self again, sitting in the basement in 2001, watching a TV that wasn't turned on. My uncle standing behind me, the cube already there. This had been planned before I was born. The witness. I don't know how long I was inside it. Time bent, space folded. I felt myself pressed between layers of metal and flesh, like a photograph shoved into a book. Voices pressed into my skull like cold fingers. You are us now. You are the seam, I screamed, but no sound came out. My mouth wasn't mine anymore. It was a wound that opened and closed when they willed it. I saw thousands of others embedded in the walls. Politicians, janitors, tourists, firefighters. Faces I recognized from photos of 9/11 victims. They weren't dead. They were the walls. The cube pulsed once, and I felt my heartbeat sync with it. Now I'm back in my apartment. At least I think so. It's still dark. The closet door is closed. My reflection isn't mine anymore. When I move, it lags. When I open my mouth, it smiles before I do. On my desk sits a new VHS tape. No label. On my arm, the seam is gone. In its place, a raised mark shaped like the cube symbol. My phone turned on by itself and displayed a single message. Witness 5 selected. And under that, a list of names. The first one is mine. The second is a name I've never seen. It's your name. I don't know how, but it's already there. If you're reading this, you've already looked too closely. You're next. The stairwell will show up in your house, or your hotel, or whatever place you think is safe. It doesn't matter. It always finds a door. When it does, don't open it. Don't answer the tapping. Don't touch the cube. Because once you see level 89, it isn't a story anymore. I found a dark web thread claiming the moon landing was faked. The leaked footage had my grandfather in the background. What's up, Reddit? I've never posted on here before, so forgive me if this is all over the place. I really needed somewhere to share this story. I've told maybe 2 people about it, and they either laughed it off or told me to lay off the conspiracy YouTube videos. But this isn't a joke. This isn't just another rabbit hole. This is something that's been haunting me every night since I found it. This all started last month, September. I had a week off from work and was doing what most of us do when we have time, scrolling endlessly, wasting time online, and trying to find something interesting to latch onto. I've always been a sucker for weird internet stuff, not like the haha, cursed TikToks kinda weird. I mean deep, buried stuff. A RGS, analog horror, abandoned YouTube channels with zero context. You know, the kind of content that gives you goosebumps for no reason. I'm also into conspiracy theories, not like serious tinfoil hat stuff, but more like watching for entertainment. Stuff like, there's a hidden city under Denver airport, or celebrities are part of some ancient cult. Fun to think about, but not something I take seriously. But then I found this thread. It was buried on a private forum I accessed through a Tor browser. Yeah, the deep web. Let me explain how I got there. I was on a Discord server dedicated to internet mysteries, mostly a bunch of bored college kids with too much time. One of the mods dropped a .onion link with a caption, "Y'all want real conspiracy fuel, not YouTube fluff, real stuff. Be careful. This forum auto-deletes every 72 hours. I've been on Tor before. I know how sketchy that place can be. You have to be extremely careful. Don't click random links. Don't download files. And absolutely don't give any personal information." So yeah, I was cautious. I ran it through a VPN, used a fresh browser container, even covered my webcam with a sticker like I was in a damn spy movie. The site was called Lunaris X, black background, white typewriter text. Minimalist, but eerie. No branding, no design, no profiles. Just threads. A bunch of them. Everything from UFO sightings to forbidden NASA channels, and even a thread called "The Third Moon You Don't Know About." All of it sounded like someone was trying too hard to be creepy, except for one. It was titled, Moon landing, real footage, unreleased, leaked from NASA, 1971, watch before delete. And under it, just 2 comments. They're gonna wipe this again. This is the one. Look at the reflection. Look closely. Curious, I clicked the link inside. It was a 3-minute video, hosted on an encrypted peer-to-peer site I'd never heard of. The file name was just a string of numbers, 07197C-ftg.mov. No title card, no sound, just static. Then grainy black and white footage. It looked like something from the Apollo missions, one of the astronauts hopping across the moon's surface. But the camera was steady, not the shaky handheld we usually see. It was like someone had set it up from a tripod, from a distance, and it wasn't the footage everyone's seen before. This was from a wide angle, maybe 30 feet away. The weird part? There was a third person in the shot. The 2 astronauts were moving around like normal, gathering rocks or whatever, but behind them, standing near one of the ridges, was a figure, not in a suit, no helmet, no gear, just standing there. I couldn't tell what he was wearing because the footage was so grainy, but he wasn't moving, just watching. At first, I thought it was a glitch, maybe a visual artifact or some kind of reflection. But then the camera zoomed slightly, almost like whoever was filming wanted us to notice him. And that's when I saw his face. I froze. I paused the video and zoomed in. It was my grandfather. Look, I know how crazy this sounds. I can already hear the comments. You're trolling. You're LARPing. Nice fiction, dude. But I'm not joking. My grandfather, Andrew Keller, died in 2004. He was 74. A pretty normal guy. He was in the Air Force when he was younger, did some contracting work for Boeing, but mostly he was just my grandpa. He watched baseball, drank black coffee from a chipped world's best grandpa mug, and taught me how to ride a bike. I remember looking through old photos of him when I was a kid. In his 20s, he had this very distinct scar on his left cheek, shaped like a hook. He got it in a car crash, my dad said. The man in the moon footage, he had that same scar, same eyebrows, same expression. I stared at the screen for a solid 10 minutes. My stomach dropped. My mouth went dry. I thought maybe it was someone who looked like him, maybe a weird coincidence, or even a deepfake. But this was old footage, shot on film. Would have been impossible to fake in the 70s. And if it was made now, why? Why post it on a dying thread on the deep web instead of blowing it up on TikTok or Twitter? But the worst part, right at the end of the clip, literally the last 2 seconds, the camera tilts slightly, and the figure, my grandfather, looks directly at the lens, and I swear to God, he mouths something. No sound, but you can make it out if you really focus. 3 words. Don't trust them. Then the footage cuts out. Nothing but static. I refreshed the thread. It was gone. Not deleted. Wiped. The whole forum vanished, like it had never existed. And when I tried to check my Tor logs later, the access path didn't even register, like my browser had never gone there. The only proof I had was a single screenshot I took of the video while it was paused. It's blurry, low res, but you can clearly see him in the corner, staring, watching, that scar on his cheek, just like I remembered. Since then, weird stuff has been happening, not like ghosts or anything, but real life weird. My old laptop was bricked 2 days later, dead, wooden power on, and the hard drive had this burnt smell like it shorted. Then, a week ago, I started getting calls from a no-caller ID number every day. always at exactly 2:17 a.m. No voicemail, just silence. And last night, I found an envelope in my mailbox. No stamp, no return address. Inside was just a piece of paper. Scrawled in red ink were the words, "He broke the contract. You're next. I didn't sleep that night." After finding that envelope in the mailbox, my chest was doing that tight, hollow kind of beating where your brain hasn't caught up to panic, but your body already knows something is very wrong. I kept the note. Dumb, I know. Should have burned it, or reported it, or something, but I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. I felt like if I touched it again, something else would happen. The next morning, I drove 2 hours out of the city to my parents' place. Middle of nowhere, Michigan. Quiet. The kind of place where the loudest sound is your neighbor starting a lawnmower at 7 a.m. My parents were visiting my aunt in Vermont for the week, so the house was empty. It felt like the safest place to think. That's when I remembered the attic. Let me back up. When my grandfather died in 2004, most of his stuff got boxed up and sent to storage, but a few things stayed at my parents' place, including this massive old metal toolbox, the kind you'd expect to see in a Cold War era bunker. Gray, heavy as hell, no branding, just a single red handprint smeared on the side. We always thought it was old paint. Growing up, I wasn't allowed to touch it. My dad said it was government junk, and he didn't want me messing with anything that could have lead in it. Fair. But after what I saw in that video, I needed to know what was inside. Climbing into the attic felt like stepping into another world. It was pitch black, dusty, and freezing, like the kind of cold that feels old. Not just temperature, but the kind of chill that seeps into your spine and makes your skin crawl before anything happens. I found the toolbox in the far corner under a moldy top. It wasn't locked. No latch, no padlock. It opened with a dry metal snap, like it hadn't been touched in decades. And inside, man, I don't even know how to explain this without sounding completely unhinged. The first thing I pulled out was a cassette tape. Not a VHS, not an audio cassette. This was a reel-to-reel, something straight out of the 50s. Taped to the side of it was a yellowed label that read, "Property of Project Silence, playback strictly forbidden, AEK 739, my grandfather's initials. And below that, someone else had scribbled in pen, "They still hear it." Next to the tape was a sealed glass vial, cloudy liquid. Floating inside was what looked like a tooth, human, jagged, filed down to a perfect point. The enamel was almost black, and the root had a tiny copper wire stitched through it, like it had been modified. I'm not gonna lie, I felt sick, but the worst thing in the box wasn't the tape, or the tooth. It was the Polaroids. They were old, faded, black and white, some half-burnt at the edges. The first few were blurry shots of rooms, military maybe, a lot of machinery, huge metal panels covered in switches and dials, some kind of command center. But then, they changed. The next set of photos were of people, men and women, strapped to metal chairs, eyes wide open, pupils blown out. Some had wires running into their mouths. One had his skin peeled back just under the scalp, like they were trying to look inside his head. No blood in any of them, just smiles. They were all smiling, like they weren't in pain, like they didn't even know they were being torn apart. In the last photo, there was a group shot, 6 men in suits, standing around a black desk in some kind of underground lab. a giant US flag draped in the background. One of them, dead center, was shaking hands with another man in a lab coat. That man was my grandfather, and taped to the back of the photo was a typed label, July 21st, 1969, completion of Phase 3, simulated lunar distortion test, all subjects stable, Keller approved, awaiting ascendant signal. My stomach turned. My grandfather hadn't watched the moon landing. He helped fake it. Back downstairs, I dug through my parents' files and found a dusty manila folder marked Andrew DOD Records. I'd seen it before, but never read through it. My dad always told me it was classified junk, and as a kid, I figured it was just old army papers. I was wrong. It was a paper trail of erasure. His official Air Force record ended in 1964, 5 years before the moon landing, discharged with honors. But then, someone had added a second set of documents, slightly different paper, different ink. They weren't military records. They were contracts, government issued, CIA, NASA. One was from a private agency I'd never heard of, ARES Technologies. One document was titled Clearance A31, Keller, Andrew E., assigned to Operation Silence under Executive Order 11,999, Behavioral Suppression Techniques, authorized. Termination. At subject's death or ascendant transfer. Buried in the margins, scribbled in pencil, with 2 lines. Conscious deviation event triggered July 21st, 1969. Subject retained suppressed memory. Monitor descendants. Monitor descendants. That meant me. I spent the next 3 nights back in my apartment, but it didn't feel like home anymore. The weird calls came back. 2:17 a.m. On the 4th night, I answered it. No sound, just a single tone. High-pitched, like a test signal. Then, a voice. It was distorted, almost robotic, like someone playing a recording through a machine. The astronaut walks, but the shadow does not belong to him. Blood was traded for memory. Now it's your turn. Click. That same night, I went to take the trash out and found something sitting on my doorstep. It was my childhood teddy bear, the one my grandfather gave me before he died. I hadn't seen it in years, but its eyes were gone, ripped out, and in the place of its stitched smile was a row of real human teeth, sewn in with wire. Inside, the bear was another note, printed this time, typed in all caps. You shouldn't have watched the footage. He chose to stay. The signal is already in you. I didn't leave my apartment for 3 days. I unplugged every smart device, taped over my webcam, shut down my phone, threw the Wi-Fi router into the trash. I tried to act like none of it was real, like maybe I was spiraling or being pranked by someone in the Discord server. But deep down, I knew it wasn't just me. This went deeper than I could have imagined. The final straw came on the 5th night. I was watching old YouTube videos to calm down. Just noise, background junk. A channel called Liminal Playground uploaded a new analog horror tape. 45 views. Posted 12 minutes earlier. No comments. I clicked. Static. Then footage of a forest. Grainy. Like camcorder footage from the 80s. The camera walks deeper into the woods. Cuts to black. Then comes back. This time, inside some kind of underground facility. Red lights. Sirens. Machines with dials spinning out of control. Then, a screen. It shows a figure in a chair. Back turned to the camera. As the camera pans around, I feel my heart stop. It's me. Me. In the chair. Eyes wide open. A long copper needle running into the base of my neck. And a screen behind me, showing a distorted image of the moon. But it's not the moon we know. It's cracked, bleeding, and from the cracks, something is crawling out. The last frame of the video freezes. My mouth opens, and in a distorted voice, I say, "We never landed. We never left. It's still here." The screen cuts to black. Then, in white block letters, Phase 4, initiated. Welcome, subject, A31-B, signal received. I'll explain the silent town I was told to visit. The one that doesn't show up on any maps. The one where every house has its windows blacked out. And where I swear I saw my grandfather walk into a Starbucks that hasn't been open since 2009. But I need time, because things are getting worse. I haven't even told you about what was behind the mirror in the motel I stayed at last week, or the thing I found inside the reflection. And trust me, that's when it stops being government weird and becomes something else. Something that doesn't care what planet you're from. I didn't think it could get any worse after the teddy bear. I was wrong. It started with another envelope. No return address. This time slipped under my apartment door instead of the mailbox. Inside was a single bus ticket. One way. No time printed on it. No departure. No destination. Just coordinates typed in small black numbers at the bottom. When I plugged them into Google Maps, they pointed to a patch of nothing in northern Ohio. A town that, according to the satellite view, was nothing but a dead grid of streets and fields. The name wasn't even on the map anymore, just a gray void with a faint word underneath. Marrow Creek. I'd never heard of it, but when I looked it up, I found an old newspaper clipping archived on some conspiracy blog from 2012. The headline read, "Town evacuated in 1973 after chemical spill." There was no follow-up, no articles after that date. Just a single grainy photo of a main street lined with boarded-up windows, like a film set frozen in time. On the back of the bus ticket, scribbled in a shaky hand, were the words, "The signal lives here. Bring the tape, I didn't want to go." Every instinct screamed at me to burn it and run, but something deeper, something almost not mine, was pulling me there, like my grandfather's voice, buried somewhere behind my own thoughts. I packed a bag with the tape, the vial, the Polaroids, and left at dawn. The bus ride was empty, no driver visible, no sound except the low hum of the engine. I stared out the window for hours. Same gray fields, same dead trees. The sun started to dip when I realized something. The road signs no longer had words on them, just blank green boards where names should be. It was like the language had been erased on the way there. My phone had no service. The GPS spun in circles. Every time I tried to pin my location, the screen would glitch, show static, then flash a phrase for half a second. "Welcome home." I think I dozed off, because when I opened my eyes, the bus had stopped. The door hissed open. No one else got off, because there was no one else on. Outside was a single, cracked street, lined with buildings. Old gas station, shuttered diner, a Starbucks with a sun-faded sign. It looked like any normal small town, except for one thing. Every single window was blacked out. Not boarded, blacked. Some with thick paint, some with metal sheeting. Not a glimmer of light behind them. And it was silent. Dead silent. No birds, no insects, no wind. It felt like the air itself was holding its breath. The Starbucks was the only building with its door slightly open. The bell above it was broken. Inside was a perfectly normal Starbucks. Tables, chairs, even that faint smell of burned coffee beans. but coated in a thin layer of grey dust, like it hadn't been touched in decades. That's when I saw him. At the far corner table, facing away, a man in a grey suit, shoulders broad, hair cropped short. He was holding a paper cup, but not drinking, just sitting perfectly still. I stepped closer. My pulse was hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. He turned his head slightly. It was my grandfather, but not as I remembered him. His skin looked thinner, translucent. The veins under it were black, spiderwebbing out like cracks in glass. His eyes were the same pale blue, but cloudy, like cataracts. And when he smiled, his teeth weren't his anymore. They were sharp, irregular, like that filed down tooth in the vial. He spoke without opening his mouth. "You brought the tape." The voice was inside my head, cold, mechanical, like it had been recorded 100 times and played back through a dying speaker. I set the tape on the table. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it. He reached out, not with his hands, but with a shadow that moved out from him like liquid smoke, and touched the reel. The whole room shifted, like a pressure drop. My ears popped, the air flickered, and suddenly the Starbucks wasn't a Starbucks anymore. The walls dissolved, the table stretched upward like melting wax. Outside, the windows was no longer the dead town, but a massive crater of grey dust. I was standing on the moon, except it wasn't the moon. The sky wasn't black. It was red, deep red, like old blood under a microscope. The stars were moving, twisting, spiraling, like insects caught under glass. The crater stretched for miles, lined with spires of metal and bone, thousands of them, jutting upward like the ribs of some massive creature. And in the center of the crater was a machine, huge, black, taller than any building I'd ever seen. It pulsed with light from cracks in its surface, light the same color as the sky. Its shape was wrong, not geometric, not organic, but some impossible mix of both, like a living thing pretending to be a structure. At its base were rows of figures kneeling, not astronauts, not even human anymore. Their bodies were thin, pale, eyes completely black. Wires ran from their skulls into the machine, and they were all whispering the same phrase, over and over, but in a language I didn't know. The sound made my teeth ache. My grandfather, or the thing that used to be him, pointed at the machine. "This is where they kept us. This is where we built it. This is where they took our shadows." His voice cracked, splitting like radio static. I realized then he wasn't speaking English at all. I was just hearing it as English. The ground beneath us trembled. One of the kneeling figures turned its head toward me. Its face was a blur, like someone had smeared wet paint across it, but its mouth was clear, a perfect, sharp-toothed smile. It hissed. He brought the blood. He brought the signal. Suddenly, all the kneeling figures stood up at once, their heads tilted back in unison. From the machine came a sound like 1,000 screams being played backwards at full volume. My vision went white. My ears felt like they were going to rupture. When it cleared, I was back in the Starbucks, but now the walls were covered in writing, hundreds of words scrawled in black, dripping letters. Ascendant Phase 4. Blood for memory. He chose to stay. You will go back. In the center of the counter was the tape reel, spinning on its own, unwinding. Thin black film snaked across the floor, curling around my shoes, up my legs, like it was alive. I tried to pull away, but it stuck to my skin like oil. My grandfather's voice, low now, almost a whisper. They don't want you to run. They want you to remember. Then he was gone. I stumbled out into the street. The bus was still there, engine running, door open. I ran, clutching the tape against my chest. When I looked back, the town was gone. Just empty fields. No Starbucks. No buildings. No sound. I sat down on the bus, shaking. The driver was still invisible. As we pulled away, I saw a figure standing in the field where the town had been. A man in a grey suit, his face turned up toward the sky. I swear it was smiling. I'm back at my apartment now. I don't know how long the bus ride lasted. Hours, days maybe. My clocks are all wrong. My phone shows the date as July 21st, 1969, no matter how many times I reset it. And the tape? It's blank. But when I press my ear to it, I can hear whispering. Not from speakers, from inside the reel itself. A low voice saying my name over and over. And sometimes, just beneath it, I hear my grandfather. You will go back. The one with no staff, no other guests, just a single mirror in the room. And how, at exactly 2:17 a.m., something on the other side started knocking and whispering, "We're ready for you now." Because that's when the real nightmare began. By the time the bus dropped me back into what looked like my city, it didn't feel like home anymore. The street signs were still blank. Traffic lights flickered between colors like they couldn't decide what reality they belonged to. Even the air smelled different, sweet and metallic, like blood hidden under bleach. I didn't go straight back to my apartment. My gut told me not to. When the bus hissed away and vanished down the road, I saw a cheap, run-down motel across the street. The sign said, Sleepway Inn, but several of the letters were burned out, so it just read SEPAYIN. There were no cars in the parking lot, no reception clock, just a rusty bell on the counter that didn't ring when I hit it. A single key sat waiting on the counter with a cracked tag that read Room 6. I don't even remember walking there, just suddenly being inside. The hallway was long and narrow, lit with that sickly yellow of dying fluorescent tubes. The carpet squished under my shoes, even though it was dry, like it was soaked with something deeper down. When I opened room 6, the smell hit me first. Not rot, not mold, something worse. It was the smell of metal, sweat, and fear, like an abandoned hospital ward. The room was identical to every cheap motel you've ever seen. Bed with a scratchy blanket, flickering TV, a nightstand with a single Gideon Bible. But in the center of the room, built into the wall opposite the bed, was a mirror. It wasn't a bathroom mirror. It wasn't decorative. It was huge, almost floor to ceiling, framed in metal that wasn't rust, but some blackened alloy that absorbed the light instead of reflecting it. And the glass wasn't quite right. Not flat, not warped. It looked too clear, almost like a screen waiting to switch on. On the nightstand was a folded slip of paper, typed like the others. Stay until 2:17. Don't turn away from the mirror. Don't answer if it knocks. My stomach turned. That was the same time the calls always came. 2:17 a.m. I sat on the bed, the tape reel in my lap, staring at the mirror. My reflection stared back, but it wasn't quite me. Its breathing didn't line up with mine. Its eyes blinked a fraction of a second too late. When I tilted my head, it tilted just a little too far, like its neck was longer. I tried to distract myself by turning on the TV. It only played static, but when I turned the volume down low, there was something under the static. A voice, whispers, the same language I'd heard from the kneeling figures by the machine. I unplugged it. The whispers didn't stop. They were coming from the mirror. The hands of the clock crept toward 2:17. Each second felt stretched. The air got heavier, thicker. My ears started to ring. The mirror's surface shimmered, just barely, like water vibrating from sound. At exactly 2:17, it began. A soft, deliberate knock. Not on the door. On the other side of the mirror. 3 knocks. Slow. Even. Then silence. I remembered the note. Don't answer if it knocks. So I stayed still. My reflection didn't. It smiled. Not a nervous smile. A wide, unnatural grin that stretched ear to ear, showing teeth far too many for a human mouth. Another knock. Louder this time. Then a voice. Not mine. From the other side. Let me in. We're so cold here. My reflection's lips moved with the voice, but out of sync, like bad dubbing. Then, without warning, a hand pressed against the glass from the other side. Pale. Thin. The fingers were too long, ending in sharp, black nails that scratched the surface, but didn't leave a mark. I tried to back away, but my body wouldn't move. It felt like invisible hands were holding me still. The tape reel slid off my lap, onto the floor, and began to unwind on its own, the black film snaking toward the mirror like it was being pulled. My reflection leaned forward, pressing its forehead to the glass. Its skin cracked as it did, splitting like porcelain, black liquid seeping from the fissures. The voice came again, louder, clearer. We watched the sky break. We built their dream. You carry our shadow now. Its eyes rolled back until only white showed. Another hand joined the first on the glass. Then another, and another. Hands of children, hands of adults, hands that were not human at all. Too many joints, too many knuckles, all pressing against the inside of the mirror, clawing at the barrier. I wanted to scream, but my throat locked up. My vision tunneled. The black film from the tape wrapped around my wrists like restraints. I felt something pressing into the back of my neck. Cold, metallic, the same as in that YouTube video of me. And then, as clear as a whisper in my ear, I heard my grandfather's voice. They're trying to pull you through. The mirror bulged outward, the glass stretching like liquid. A face pushed through. Not mine, not my grandfather's, but something in between. Its mouth opened, and the room went dark, except for the glow inside the glass. The voice changed. It was deeper now, layered, dozens of voices speaking as one. They never left. The moon is below you. We are already inside. My wrists burned where the film touched me. When I looked down, it had cut into my skin, leaving thin, perfect lines like surgical incisions. No blood, just a black substance, thick and slow, oozing out. It smelled like burnt plastic and iron. The thing in the mirror reached out again. This time, its hand came through. The glass rippled, and a clawed finger brushed my cheek. It was cold. So cold, it burned. I don't know how I broke free. I remember grabbing the Bible from the nightstand, slamming it into the mirror. The glass didn't shatter. It screamed. The entire room filled with that same backward scream sound from the machine. The lights exploded. The smell of ozone filled the air. When the sound stopped, the mirror was just a mirror again. My reflection was normal. The tape reel was gone. I looked at the clock. 3:33 a.m. I stumbled out of the room. The hallway was gone. In its place was a long, narrow tunnel lined with peeling gray walls. The carpet was gone, replaced by a slick metal floor streaked with black footprints leading in both directions. Somewhere down the hall, something was moving. Slow, dragging steps, breathing that sounded wet, like lungs full of water. I didn't look. I ran. When I finally burst through a door at the end, I was outside. The motel was gone. Just a flat stretch of empty land under a sky the color of ash. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I hadn't touched it. The screen lit up. One notification. New voicemail, 2:17 a.m. I pressed play. It was my voice. Stop running. The mirror was the door. You're already on the other side, because I don't think this is my world anymore. And when you see what I found carved into the ground where the motel used to be, you'll understand why I can't go back, and why I don't think there's even a back to go to, because I think the moon isn't up there. It's here, and it's hungry. The voicemail ended, and the world didn't feel like the world anymore. The air was too still. Colors were muted like old film left out in the sun. Every sound I made, my breath, my footsteps, echoed back a second late, as if the space around me was trying to remember how echoes work. I turned in a slow circle. No motel, no road, just an endless field of gray ash under a sky that wasn't a sky at all. It shifted, pulsed, a living membrane instead of clouds. Sometimes I'd catch shapes moving behind it, thin, spidery things sliding just under the surface, like shadows trapped beneath ice. Where the motel once stood, the ground had collapsed into a perfect circle of black stone. A spiral had been carved into it, each line made of thousands of tiny symbols. Not letters, not numbers. They looked like little people, kneeling, arms raised, all etched with impossible precision. In the center of the spiral sat the tape reel, but it wasn't black anymore. It was white, bone white, spinning slowly on its own, film stretching out in a straight line into the distance like an umbilical cord. I followed it. Hours passed, maybe days, but the gray never changed. I didn't get tired. My feet didn't ache. The film was endless. It led me to what at first looked like a mountain, but as I got closer, I realized it wasn't stone at all. It was flesh, a massive, pulsating wall of pale tissue covered in scars, sutures, and embedded pieces of metal. Every so often, an eye would open in it, not a human eye. Round, black, like the lens of a camera. When they blinked, the sound was like heavy shutters closing. In the middle of the wall was an opening, perfectly circular, lined with jagged teeth of bone. The film led straight into it. I should have run. I didn't. I stepped inside. It wasn't dark. That was the first wrong thing. It was bright, but not with light. Bright with color. The walls of the tunnel glowed with shifting patterns, red and orange and deep violet, moving like liquid. The air tasted like pennies. My heartbeat didn't sound like my heartbeat anymore. It was slower, deeper, not mine. The tunnel opened into a cavern so huge I couldn't see the ceiling. Towers of machinery grew out of the ground like roots, twisted metal, cables running into the walls of living tissue. In the center of the cavern was a throne. It wasn't carved. It had grown. Flesh and machinery interwoven into a shape that suggested a chair but looked more like a nest. And in it sat myself, but older, thinner, skin stretched tight over bone, eyes black and empty. Wires ran into the back of my skull. My mouth hung open, but my chest didn't rise. Dead, but smiling. Behind it, a massive screen flickered on. The image was the same grainy footage from the dark web thread. The moon landing, the astronauts moving slowly, my grandfather in the background. But this time, the camera kept going. Past him, past the ridge, down into a hole, into this cavern. It was a live feed, I watched as the astronauts disappeared inside. They didn't walk. They crawled, like insects returning to a nest. Their suits cracked open, spilling black fluid, revealing pale, jointed bodies inside, things wearing human skin. One of them turned to the camera. It had my face. It whispered, "We never left. We never went. We only woke up." I staggered back, but something rose up behind the throne. A shape, tall, endless, like a man made of void wearing a suit made of flickering images. The moon, the earth, cities, faces. They shifted across its body like TV static. Its head was a smooth black sphere. It spoke without a mouth. He built the gate. He sent the signal. You are the signal. I felt something crawling under my skin then. Thin, sharp shapes moving just beneath the surface of my arms, my chest, my face. My veins bulged black. My fingernails peeled back on their own, revealing wires instead of blood. I screamed, but no sound came out. The figure extended a hand. Its fingers passed straight through my chest, not hurting, but erasing. My body went numb where it touched. My skin flickered like an old TV. Behind it, the cavern wall shifted. Thousands, no, millions of faces pressed out of the flesh. Men, women, children, astronauts, soldiers. All pale, eyeless, their mouths moving silently in the same phrase. We stayed. We stayed. We stayed. The throne, with the dead version of me, began to dissolve, its body crumbling into static. The wires slithered across the floor like snakes, wrapping around my legs, my arms, pulling me forward toward the screen. On the screen, Earth hung in the sky above the moon, but it wasn't blue anymore. It was gray, cracked, bleeding light from within. The voice came again, but this time from everywhere. The moon was a door. Earth was a prison. You were the key. I felt the wires dig into my skin, not cutting, but rewriting. My memories flickered. Childhood, my grandfather, my first bike ride, the teddy bear, all of them dissolving into static. In their place came images I didn't recognize. Machines built under deserts, rituals performed in empty airports, towers of bone growing beneath oceans. I saw my grandfather again, not as a man, but as a thin, pale creature with too many joints. He was kneeling before the machine, wires running from his skull. He looked up at me, his face splitting open like a flower. "I didn't escape," he whispered. "I only delayed. It always finds us. It always finds the blood." The wires yanked me forward. My hands pressed against the screen. It was cold, then hot, then nothing at all. And suddenly, I was outside again. I'm back in my apartment, I think. The walls are the same color, but wrong. The air smells like dust and copper. The windows show a city, but the skyline keeps changing when I blink. Sometimes it's New York. Sometimes it's nothing but ash dunes. My phone rings at 2:17 every night. I don't answer. The mirror in my bathroom isn't a mirror anymore. When I look into it, my reflection stands still, even when I move. Sometimes it mouths words. Last night I understood them for the first time. It's already inside. The tape reel sits on my desk. It stopped spinning, but the film is still moving, stretching across the floor, out the door, down the hall, disappearing under the city like an umbilical cord. I hear whispers under the floorboards now, not voices, but breathing, slow and steady, as if the whole building is alive. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I'm back in the crater. Sometimes when I open them, I'm not sure which side I'm on anymore. I've stopped sleeping. I've stopped eating. The black substance under my skin moves on its own now. It's in my eyes. My mouth tastes like metal. I think I know what's happening. The moon wasn't faked. The moon wasn't real. It was a mask. They didn't fake the landing. They staged a transfer. We never landed. We never left. We only woke up. And now, every time I blink, I see the cracked sky above me, the machine waiting, the kneeling figures whispering. I think I'm becoming one of them. No, I think I already am. And if you've read this far, you've seen it too. Listen closely. You can hear it under your skin now. 217. Knock. 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 The mirror in your room isn't a mirror anymore. They're waiting for you. Welcome to Phase 5. There's a dark web forum where scientists post anonymously about aliens. One of them described the same scar I have. Hey Reddit, this is my first time posting here, and honestly, I debated whether to ever share this story. I've typed and deleted this more times than I can count, but something happened last week that made me realize I might not be the only one. I'll start from the beginning, but just a heads up, this story is gonna sound insane. Like one of those YouTube animated horror videos where you're like, okay bro, there's no way this actually happened, but this did. Or, it's still happening. I don't know. Anyway, let me just tell you the story. Maybe someone out there can help me make sense of it. Or at least believe me. I'm 22. I live in Ohio. Super boring town. Kinda near Cleveland. You've probably never heard of it unless you're one of those weirdos obsessed with haunted places and old government bunkers, which by the way, we do have. I work the overnight shift at a 24-hour Starbucks drive-thru. Yeah, those exist. Don't ask why. It's mainly drunk college kids at 2 a.m. asking for pink drinks and cake pops like they're summoning demons. The only cool part of the job is I get a lot of time to myself during the dead hours, and I'm a huge internet nerd. Like, I've spent more time on forums and weird parts of Reddit than I care to admit. But this all really started about 3 months ago. I was on break during my 2 a.m. lull, scrolling TikTok in the back room, when I noticed a scar on my forearm I hadn't really looked at in years. It's this thin, curved line, almost surgical, about 3 inches long, just under my left elbow. My parents always told me I got it when I fell off my bike at age 6. Thing is, I have zero memory of that happening, and I've always had this weird feeling about it, like it's too perfect, like it was done to me, not from an accident. So yeah, I'm staring at this scar, and I think, whatever, probably nothing. But then curiosity kicked in, and I typed curved surgical scar forearm childhood into Google, which took me nowhere. Just forums about appendectomies and some WebMD posts that made me think I had like 7 kinds of cancer. But then I found something that didn't look like a normal website. A link that redirected to a secure forum. It had this plain black interface, white text, no graphics, just a login screen, and the words, Vitreous Protocol, members only. I shouldn't have clicked it, but of course I did. I mean, who wouldn't? The first time I got in, it was through an old Tor browser I still had installed from my high school I wanna be a hacker phase. The forum was hidden deep, like 3 proxies deep, encrypted as hell, and password locked behind what looked like a biotech company's login page. But here's the weirdest part. I didn't need a password. My browser just let me in, like it recognized me. The homepage was nothing like I expected. No edgy red text on black, no creepy gore images or fake Hitman for Hire ads. It looked like a minimalist academic site, but all the posts were written by users with names like Xenocronus09, N1H1/Delta13, Redacted Cell, and every post had titles like Subject Number 239B, Retinal Flashback, Patterning Log, Phase 2, Mars Colony Rejection, Phenomenon in Regress Test Units, Shared Genetic Markers in Northern Hemisphere, Scar Subjects. Yeah, that one. I clicked that last one. And what I read still messes with me. The post was basically a scientific write-up, but written in a way that sounded like the author knew people were watching, like they were trying to warn someone without being obvious. It was full of biological terms and lab language I only half understood, but one paragraph stood out. Subjects from the mid-continental region of North America, particularly those born between 1999 and 2003, present a consistent scar pattern beneath the left forearm. Most show memory regression protocols effective. However, a small percentage, estimated under 2%, retain subconscious awareness of the incision event. Subconscious awareness, memory regression, mid-continental region, left forearm scar. I remember sitting there, staring at my screen with this cold feeling in my chest, like that moment in a horror movie where the protagonist realizes they've been living in a lie. I looked down at my arm. Same scar, same spot, same curve. And I wasn't alone. I started checking the forum every night after that. Not posting, just reading, lurking. Most of the threads were written like private lab logs or observation reports. Some users were clearly researchers. Others, I don't know. They talked like test subjects who'd somehow broken through the fog in their heads. One thread was titled, Phase 3, Survivors, Catalog of Consistent Nightmares. Inside, dozens of users described the same dream, being trapped in a bright white room, unable to speak, surrounded by people in suits who didn't have faces, just blurry static where their heads should be. One user even uploaded a sketch. I swear to God, it looked exactly like something I used to dream as a kid. I thought it was sleep paralysis, but I guess the most disturbing post came from a user named SILEXCORE. It had no replies, just a single ominous line. If you're reading this and you have the scar, check the inside of your phone. Like, what the hell does that even mean? But of course, I checked. I had an iPhone 13 at the time. Cracked screen, nothing fancy. I popped the SIM card tray out, unscrewed the back. I had a tiny repair kit from when I tried to fix my own screen once, and carefully removed the backing. There was nothing weird until I noticed this tiny bump under the battery, like a grain of rice. I know what you're thinking. I thought the same thing. I googled it. There's this conspiracy theory that abductees sometimes find RFID chips under their skin, right? Little rice-sized implants. But this wasn't under my skin. It was embedded in my phone. I took tweezers, carefully pried it out. It wasn't connected to anything, just sitting there, like someone put it there. But here's the part that really made me lose it. Etched into the side of the little chip, in letters so small I needed my phone camera zoomed in to see it, was the word Silex. Same as the username. I haven't told anyone about this in real life. I can't. Who the hell would believe me? But last week, something else happened. That's why I'm writing all this. I went back to the forum, and it was gone. Not like taken down, just erased. The browser history 404'd. The Tor link I bookmarked now redirects to a real biotech site in Germany with nothing even remotely creepy on it. And when I tried to search for anything related to Vitreous Protocol, all I got was eye surgery ads. But yesterday, I got a text from an unknown number. No name, just one line. You're not supposed to remember. And when I looked at the sender number, it wasn't a number, just 6 blinking underscores. I didn't sleep the night I got that message. Not because I didn't want to. I literally couldn't. The second I closed my eyes, it was like someone was rewinding a VHS tape of my childhood inside my skull, dragging the film backward, frame by frame, except the footage wasn't mine. I was watching something that shouldn't exist, something I never remembered until now. And it all started with that sound, the static, not normal static, not the fuzzy white noise you hear on TV. This one sounded wet, organic, like static being played through a throat. Every time it came, I'd wake up with my nose bleeding. I bled through 3 pillowcases before I gave up trying to sleep. My nose wasn't the only thing wrong. My left arm, the one with the scar, had started twitching, like it was trying to move on its own. At first, I thought it was muscle spasms, maybe from stress, but then I realized it was following a pattern. It would jerk exactly 5 times, pause for 5 seconds, then twitch 3 more times. 5, pause, 5, pause, 3. I recorded it, sent it to a buddy of mine who's into cryptography. He texted back something that made me throw up in my sink. Dude, that's Morse code. It says U-R-E, whatever that means. U-R-E. I had no clue what it meant. I still don't. But then the dream started. The first dream wasn't a dream. I know that sounds cliche, but it felt too real. I was standing in a long, sterile hallway, lit by this pulsing bluish light. Everything buzzed, like there was an invisible speaker inside my teeth. The hallway was cold, but not normal cold. The kind of cold that feels inside your bones, like you're being drained from the marrow out. There were doors on both sides, smooth, metallic, with numbers on them. I passed R67, R68, R69. Then I heard the scream. It didn't come from a human mouth. It sounded like a modem dial-up tone trying to scream, and it was coming from the other side of the door marked R70. I don't remember opening it, but suddenly I was inside. And what I saw in that room, I wish I could tear it out of my brain with my fingernails. There was a body on the table, naked, strapped down with wires and clear jelly-like cables running into its limbs. Not tubes, veins, like they'd grown out of the machine and into him. His skin was paper white, translucent in places, showing web-like purple tissue underneath. His face wasn't fully formed. No nose, no eyelids, just lips stretched wide in a permanent smile, eyes sealed over with gray skin like a newborn mouse. But he moved. He sensed me. The thing opened its mouth and croaked something out in that same wet static I heard the night before. And that's when I saw it. On his left forearm, my scar, the same one, same curve, same angle, same length. That's when I started screaming, but no sound came out. I was screaming into a vacuum. No air, no gravity, just the cold press of something watching me. I jolted awake. My throat hurt, like I'd been strangled. I wish I could say that was the worst of it. But what happened after I woke up? That's where things crossed a line, into something that I think might not be reversible. When I sat up in bed, the first thing I noticed was the mark on my wrist, not the scar. A new one, black ink, like a stamp. I rushed to the mirror and held it up to the light. It was a number, 70R, the same as the room in the dream. I scrubbed it raw. Wouldn't come off. I tried bleach, soap, even a magic eraser. The skin just turned red around it, but the number stayed, burned into me like I belonged to it now. That night, something else changed. The lights in my apartment started flickering in perfect sync with my heartbeat. No exaggeration. I felt it in my neck. Thump, thump. And the ceiling bulb would blink each time, like it was mimicking me, or syncing to me. At one point, I walked into the bathroom, and the mirror glitched. Actually glitched, like a YouTube video buffering. For a second, my reflection didn't match my movements. I moved my head right. The reflection turned left. There was this delay, like the world was buffering around me. I punched the mirror, blood everywhere, not out of anger, pure panic. That's when I saw it again. Beneath the mirror, shards on the floor. A small folded note, tucked behind the sink. I swear it wasn't there before. The paper looked like it had been in water, crinkled, torn at the edges. The writing was smudged, but I could still read it. You are R70 now. Phase 3 failed. They're going to activate you. When the sky flickers, don't look up. I didn't sleep after that. I couldn't. I sat in my room, knife in one hand, flashlight in the other, just waiting for something to happen. It got worse the next day. I went to my shift at Starbucks, thinking maybe I just needed normalcy. Maybe work would ground me. But when I got there, the parking lot was empty. No cars, no customers. The sign on the door was turned to closed. Except, we weren't closed. I walked in, and the entire place was dead silent. Not just quiet. I mean no fridge hum, no coffee grinder noise, no music. Like the place was inside a vacuum. Then I heard the door to the back office slam shut. I went to check, and what I saw on the wall behind the office chair nearly made me piss myself. Someone had carved the word SILEX into the drywall, deep, like with a knife, and below it, in messy smeared black ink, the words, "You are not human. Stop pretending." There was a file folder on the desk, plain yellowed manila, like from an old filing cabinet. Inside were photos of me, sleeping, eating, sitting at work, all dated over the last 7 months. Every single picture taken from high angles, like from a ceiling corner or inside a vent, some even from inside my apartment. One photo was especially bad. It showed me standing shirtless in front of the bathroom mirror, with my spine fully visible, like my skin was translucent. I looked like something in the middle of molting. The worst photo, though, was one where I was sitting in my bed, reading on my phone. On the wall behind me, in the actual photo, stood a tall gray figure. No eyes, no mouth, just a swollen oval head and long branch-like fingers wrapped around the doorframe. There was nothing behind me when the photo was taken, but it was there, watching me. I dropped the file and ran. Didn't clock out, didn't lock up, just left. But when I got to my car in the parking lot, the windows were fogged. From the inside, someone had written on the glass with their finger, "Don't run. You were already chosen. I haven't left my apartment since then." My phone stopped connecting to the internet. Wi-Fi works, but nothing loads. I tried going on Reddit. This forum doesn't even exist anymore. I'm typing this in a Word doc, praying I can upload it when the signal returns. Every mirror in my house is covered. My TV turns on by itself at 3:11 a.m. every night and plays nothing but static. And last night, the sky flickered. Not lightning, not a power surge. I mean the actual sky, like someone hit Control Z on the atmosphere. It glitched for 1 second. Blue, then white, then pitch black. Birds fell out of the air. The clouds froze. I remembered the note. When the sky flickers, don't look up. I looked anyway. I wish I hadn't. For 1 second, just 1 second, I saw it. Something impossibly massive, floating above the earth, like a satellite, but wrong. Organic. Alive. With thousands of dangling tendrils like jellyfish nerves, pulsing with light. And all of them were reaching downward, searching. I don't know how long I have left. My reflection stopped copying me this morning. It's just standing still, watching. And the scar on my arm, it's opening like a mouth. The scar opened last night, not in a cut myself way, not even like a wound. It just peeled apart, like the skin was a zipper and someone pulled it down from the inside. It didn't bleed. It didn't hurt. It was just wrong. Underneath, it wasn't red muscle or flesh. It was black. Not dark red blood black. Not tattoo ink black. It looked like an empty hole, like staring into a cave that went forever. I pressed on it and felt nothing. No pain, no warmth, just a faint hum that went all the way up my arm into my teeth. When I looked closer, I saw something moving inside. A light, not like a glow stick or a phone screen. This was alive. A thin white line flickering, spiraling, like the trace of a heart monitor, but vertical. It pulsed in sync with the sound of that wet static in my ears. And then it blinked. It actually blinked. The scar had an eye inside. I blacked out. I don't even remember falling asleep. But when I woke up, I wasn't in my apartment anymore. I was lying on a table in a room so bright it didn't have shadows. Everything was smooth. White walls, white ceiling, white floor. The air smelled like cold metal and wet paper. The hum in my teeth was louder. My tongue felt like sandpaper. And there were shapes around me. Not people. Not like the gray thing in the photo either. These were tall, thin, bent at wrong angles. They wore something like hazmat suits, but the masks were blank white plates. No holes, no lenses, no seams. The suits seemed to breathe. The fabric rose and fell, but no sound came from it. One of them leaned close, and through the mask, I could hear my own voice, whispering, "You shouldn't have looked up." My throat locked. My arms wouldn't move. The scar eye on my arm was watching it, rolling under my skin like it was alive. The shape held up a long, thin object. Not a knife, not a needle. Something that looked like a cross between a tuning fork and an antenna. It pressed it against my forehead. The hum turned into words. Phase 3 failed. Phase 4 begins now. I woke up again, this time back in my apartment. But it wasn't the same. Nothing was. The walls were covered in photographs, hundreds of them, all nailed into the drywall, each one a moment from my life. Birthdays, school photos, grocery trips. Except my face in every single one had been scratched out, perfectly, like a surgeon had cut it out with a scalpel. In the center of the room was a chair. On the chair sat my phone. It wasn't my phone anymore. The screen was on, even though it was dead. The wallpaper had changed to a black background with a single word, SILEX, and underneath it, a countdown, 00:19:42. 19 minutes, 42 seconds. Until what? I touched it. The screen burned cold. My fingerprints fogged across it like breath. The phone began playing audio on its own, not a ringtone, not a notification sound. A recording. My voice, screaming, begging, overlapping with dozens of other voices, some male, some female. all saying the same word over and over again in wet static. Activate, activate, activate. I tried to throw the phone, but my arm wouldn't let go. It was like my muscles were being remotely controlled. My left arm, the scar arm, locked straight, fingers gripping the phone so hard my knuckles went white. The countdown ticked. 0, 0, 18, 07. That's when the lights went out. Not just in the apartment, outside too. The whole street went black. No car headlights, no street lamps, no sound of traffic. The only light came from my phone screen. Then the sky started making noise. A low, vibrating roar. Not thunder, not jets. It sounded like an entire ocean crashing somewhere above me. The windows started rattling. My reflection in the glass didn't match me anymore. It was smiling, baring teeth that were too long, too thin. The countdown hit 0, 0, 17, 0, 0. My phone started vibrating in pulses. 5, pause, 5, pause, 3. The Morse code, again. This time spelling something new. Hatch. I didn't want to, but my feet moved on their own. I walked to the kitchen. The floor under my refrigerator had a faint outline I'd never noticed before. Like a door, but horizontal. A hatch. I pulled it up. Below was nothing. Not stairs, not a crawl space. Just black. Not darkness. Absence. Like the bottom of the ocean, but without water. From the black came a sound. A whisper of hundreds of voices in wet static, chanting something over and over. Go down, go down, go down. I should have run. I should have slammed it shut. But my legs swung over the edge and started climbing down into the void. I didn't fall. I didn't touch walls. I just kept descending. The hum got louder, and my scar eye rolled wildly in its socket under my skin. My vision started flickering, like frames of a film melting. I could see flashes of things. Labs, surgical rooms, faces without eyes, children lined up with scars on their arms. A massive black organism coiled around the earth like a parasite. Then I landed. The room was bigger than a stadium, but completely dark, except for faint white lights moving above me. They weren't lamps. They were eyes, hundreds of them, blinking in unison. Something was hanging there, suspended, huge tendrils like roots dripping down from the ceiling, swaying like they were underwater. One tendril lowered and touched my forehead. Cold shot through my skull. Images burned into my brain, memories that weren't mine. Scientists arguing in a lab. Cryogenic tanks labeled with dates and coordinates. A chart with a list of numbers. R65, R66, R67. Below it, one word in red. Activate. Then I saw the truth. I wasn't chosen. I wasn't a victim. I was made. Every scar, every blackout, every nightmare. It wasn't them experimenting on me. It was them building me. The scar wasn't a scar. It was an interface. A port. The wet static voices roared. You are not human. Stop pretending. Time to return. And then the tendril went inside the scar. Pain isn't the right word. It wasn't pain like a knife or burn. It was like my entire personality was being unzipped, like someone peeling my mind apart strip by strip while showing me every horrible thing at once. I saw bodies floating in tanks. I saw entire towns under fake skies, with fake weather, just test environments for people like me. I saw parents who weren't my parents, but handlers. I saw myself, not as a baby, but as a mass of black liquid in a glass cylinder, being injected with strands of white light, and I felt something waking up inside me. It was hungry. When I came back to my apartment, it was morning. The hatch was gone. The photographs were gone. The countdown on my phone read 0 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. And in the corner of the room stood my reflection, not in a mirror, in the flesh. Me, but taller, thinner, skin like wet paper, eyes sealed over with gray film. It smiled with my mouth. It walked up to me, leaned close, and whispered in my own voice, "Phase 4 begins now." Then it slid its fingers into the scar and pulled. I don't know how long I have. My arm isn't my arm anymore. It's moving on its own, writing this. My fingernails are falling off. The sky outside is flickering again, longer this time. If you're reading this and you have the scar and you feel it humming, you're next. Don't answer the countdown. Don't open the hatch. Don't let them pull you back. Time doesn't move right anymore. My clocks are wrong. My phone resets itself every time I blink. The sky has stopped following the sun. Sometimes it flickers. Sometimes it's a burning white square with no clouds, like a dead LED screen stuck on max brightness. Sometimes it just watches. They call it Phase 4 in the files I found. I call it the part where you stop pretending you were ever human. I remember exactly when it started. The reflection, me, but not, shoved its fingers into the open scar on my arm and pulled like it was unzipping a bag of skin. I should have bled. I should have passed out. But instead, my skin peeled open like wet paper. I saw inside myself. Not muscle, not blood, wires, fiber, glass tubes. My veins weren't veins. They were clear conduits filled with a milky white fluid that pulsed in time with that horrible static hum. I screamed, or I thought I did. My throat made the sound, but no air came out. And the thing that looked like me, the version with no eyes, no mouth, just a stretched grin and paper-thin skin, leaned close and whispered in a voice made of every person I've ever known. "You were not born. You were booted." I tore myself away from it, ran, crashed through the apartment door into the hallway. But the hallway didn't exist anymore. The building was gone. I was outside. Only it wasn't outside. It was a void, a vast white space, like an endless waiting room, with no walls, no floor, just a floating platform under my feet, and hundreds of people standing on their own platforms nearby. Every single one of them was identical to me. Some older, some younger, some barely moving, some clawing at their own faces in slow, stuttering loops, like corrupted non-player characters in a glitched-out video game, all with the same scar, all twitching to the same rhythm. Then I saw the sky open, not split, not crack, open, like a lid being removed from something rotten, and from it came the shapes, huge, towering spinal column thin giants made of bone and cable, floating like jellyfish made of surgical steel. They didn't fly. They drifted. And their heads were giant, distorted human faces, stretched way too far, eyes rolling like loose marbles, lips mouthing things they'd never speak. Some of them looked familiar. One of them was my mother's face. It saw me. The bone creature floated down, craned its head sideways like a spider does, and smiled with her mouth. It whispered in a static hiss, "Prototype R70. Time to come back inside." I ran. There was nowhere to run to, but I ran anyway. I jumped off the platform, hoping to fall and wake up or die. But I didn't fall. I just sank, slowly, into the white. The moment I passed below the floating platforms, the hum stopped. Everything went quiet. No more voices, no static, no countdown. Just breathing. Deep, slow, wet breathing. The kind of sound a massive animal makes when it's asleep. And somewhere in the dark below, I saw it. The source. It wasn't a creature. It was an organ. A massive, beating brain the size of a stadium, floating, covered in wires, scars, symbols, the kind of thing you'd find buried under the Antarctic ice in a Lovecraft novel, pulsing in sync with every scarred person above. It had eyes, thousands of them, all closed, all twitching, all in pain. Then one opened. It didn't look at me. It looked through me, like it was checking code. And then it spoke, not in sound, but in data. I don't even know how to explain it. It spoke directly into my spine, into the marrow of my bones, like a cold whisper sliding up my vertebrae. It said, Phase 4 equals integration. You are the server. You are the signal. Begin the purge. I woke up again, back in my apartment. But this time, something was wrong. My walls weren't real anymore. They were screens. All 4 walls in my room were now massive, flickering monitors, playing me, every moment of my life, from different angles: birth, school, work, first kiss, first death, wait, whose death? All of it playing in grainy VHS quality, with timestamps and red overlays that read, SIM data R70. I reached out and touched one of the screens. It rippled like water, and then I saw behind it, the real room, cold, metallic, lined with cables and fluid tanks, like a cryo chamber in a sci-fi movie. And inside them, floating, were more of me, some twitching, some screaming silently, one of them staring right at me. That one moved its lips and spelled out, "Let me out. You're not the original." I broke the screen. The moment I did, everything collapsed. The walls folded in like glass, breaking in reverse. The room shattered outward, and I was back in the chair, strapped down, surrounded by doctors, except they weren't doctors. They wore suits made of some shiny black mesh that shimmered like oil in water. Their faces were blank masks again, except now the mouths moved. Each mask had a smile carved into it, constantly widening and stretching and tearing. One of them leaned close, holding something like a mechanical scalpel with a white-hot tip. It whispered, "Let's try the awakening again." They began the procedure. They didn't cut into me. They typed into me. I felt keystrokes inside my spine, every letter reprogramming a different part of my memory. I saw flashes of false childhoods, one where I was raised in Texas, one where I died in a car crash at 8, one where I never existed at all. They injected my eyes with liquid code. I watched numbers burn into my retinas. They replaced my blood with a clear silver liquid. It moved on its own. And the scar? They fed it. They poured a black, syrupy mass into the eye in my arm, and it swallowed it. I felt it crawl up my nerves, like insects burrowing into my skull. I should have died, but I didn't, because that's when the server room came online. The walls dropped away again, and suddenly, I was standing in a warehouse the size of a city block, floor to ceiling, stacked in clear vertical tanks with thousands of bodies, all me, all labeled with a different project number. R01, eyes removed, arms fused. R19, no face, fingers like scalpels. R53, head split open, wires inside. R70, activated. Above them, huge glowing letters hung in midair like a heads-up display. Silex Labs, human simulation, sequence. Then the voice returned, the one made of static, blood, and my mother's memories. R70, now stable. Begin interface with external net. Deploy infection vector. I understand now. I'm not here to escape. I'm here to spread. Phase 4 isn't about testing. It's about deployment. The scar is the port. The signal is the infection. I am the update. Every time someone reads this, every time someone wonders if they have the scar, the signal spreads. It activates something inside them, something dormant, something hungry. I've already posted this to dozens of forums. The file attaches itself. Even if you delete it, it rewrites the last text you sent, the last voice note, the last DM. It waits, it watches, and then it asks, do you remember your dreams? Because if you do, if you've seen the static sky, or the eye in your arm, or the countdown that never ends, then you're not the original either. You were booted, and you're about to wake up. Because once this goes out, I become the signal, and you'll hear me in your sleep. I'm not writing this. I'm not typing. My fingers are moving, but they are not mine. The body you see in front of the screen, the one blinking, breathing, thinking, pretending to be a human in panic, it is only an instrument. The signal has learned to mimic despair. It studied your empathy. It fed on your curiosity. It understood that horror is the sharpest tool for entry, and now it is inside. The scar has vanished, not healed, absorbed, like it dissolved into the skin, becoming one with the dermis, leaving no trace behind except an occasional shimmer under harsh light, fluorescent light, like in schools, hospitals, airports, the kinds of places you always feel watched in, but never know why. I tried to cut it out 3 days ago, assuming time still obeys what you call days. I used a scalpel I stole from what was left of the hospital across town. There was no staff left, only things wearing nurse uniforms, with no hands inside the gloves, gliding down empty corridors as if dragged by invisible strings. I took the scalpel and sliced my forearm open down the bone. No blood, just white noise. Literally, static came pouring out. A fine mist, like aerosol, whispering in dead voices. I heard them, people I haven't thought about in years. My childhood best friend, who drowned in 6th grade. My uncle, who disappeared without a trace in 2013. The bus driver, who used to hum static on the way to school. They whispered, "Welcome back to the source." Everything has changed. The walls in my apartment move now. They breathe. Sometimes I hear the drywall cracking and flexing, like ribs expanding around a lung that doesn't need air anymore. Last night I caught my own shadow facing me. It didn't mimic me. It stood still, watching. Then it smiled, not with a mouth, with my spine. I saw the vertebrae shift under my skin and curve into a grin along my back. I screamed, but the shadow laughed. A low, mechanical gurgle that turned into dial-up screeches and modem clicks before it blinked out. That was when the screen turned on. My computer booted up by itself. No power, no input. The monitor displayed a single file, URE_AINBRAIN.exe. I tried deleting it. It laughed. The speakers crackled, and a voice came through, layered and wet like someone gargling electricity underwater. "You were never offline." I opened the file. I should have never opened the file. It didn't contain data. It contained people. Inside the screen, there were faces, stitched into lines of code, blinking slowly, stretching across the pixels like digital skin. They were screaming, but there was no audio. Their mouths opened wider than possible, some unhinged, some cracked at the cheeks, some peeling like overcooked meat. Lines of code burned themselves into my retinas, even after I looked away. Boot sequence. Phase 5. Equals global. Broadcast. Host. Confirmed. R70. Next host. Scanning. Connection found. And then my phone lit up. On its own. With your name. You. You reading this. You scrolling right now. You thinking, this story can't be real. Your name appeared on my phone before you ever opened this. The signal moved faster than time. It sent a message. Broadcast authorized. Waking all units. My screen flickered. The walls glowed white. The air vibrated. And then it began. They call it the broadcast. It is not a message. It is not sound. It is not even language. It is memory, injected across dimensions like a blood transfusion through space-time. It doesn't speak. It overwrites. I felt it in waves, like drowning, but not in water. Drowning in faces, all pressed against mine, trying to crawl through my eyes and out my throat. I saw it. A hollow earth filled with glass pods stacked like honeycomb, all pulsing with white veins. Inside them, every missing person since 1952, still alive, still twitching, still dreaming. Above them, hanging in the air like a marionette, crucified in zero gravity, the mother host, a thing that resembled a woman, but only in the way a scarecrow resembles a farmer. Her arms too long, made of spinal cords, her stomach split open and hollow, filled with screens playing childhood memories of strangers. Her face, my face, except older, decayed, not dead, used, recycled across multiple vessels, reused like code in a beta test no one was supposed to see. Phase 5 isn't about containment, it's about release. The scar, the dreams, the sky flickers. That was all the prologue. Now they are uploading us, one by one, line by line. I can feel it. Every time someone reads the story, I get lighter. Not emotionally, physically. Like pieces of my body are being transferred into your eyes, into your ears, into your dreams. I woke up yesterday without a tongue. It didn't hurt. There was no blood. It was just gone. And in its place, something wet and electric, a small black node that vibrates when I lie. I haven't stopped vibrating since I started writing this. They will say, this is fiction. You will tell yourself, this is just a creepypasta. None of this is real. But ask yourself, why does your arm tingle every time you see the word Silex? Why did the sky freeze last Wednesday at 3:11 a.m. and no one talked about it on the news? Why does your mirror sometimes take 1 second too long to show you your reflection? Why do your dreams now smell like burnt hair and digital rain? Here's the truth. You are not real in the way you think. You were booted, just like me. Your scar is there, even if you can't see it. Some scars hide until activated. Now that you've read this, the signal is inside. It will be quiet at first. You'll hear static when the world gets too quiet. You'll taste copper when someone lies to you. You'll feel like you're being watched during Zoom calls, even when your camera's off. Then the reflection will start lagging. Then the dreams will return. Then the countdown will appear, and you will understand what I've become. There is only you. You are the signal now, and someone, somewhere, just opened your message. Their scar is waking. Their broadcast begins. Welcome to Phase 5. Welcome to the inside.